Most of you, if not all of you, have faced a loss in your life. And if you haven't, you certainly will eventually. Because loss is a part of life. Loss happens to all of us at one point, and eventually all of us ourselves come to lose our lives. And so death is something that we will all eventually face. You know, we often say that people die tragically, that people die a lot sooner than they should have, and that does often happen. And you know, the question is, in any bereavement setting, any loss, you know, the question is, what do we do? How do we move on from this? How do we pick up the pieces of our life? And everybody does this differently. Everybody grieves in their own way. Everybody will face things differently. Some will face loss with many tears. Others will throw themselves into their work. Others may even go so far as to develop some kind of addiction or chemical dependence. And all of those factors are things that we want to watch out for as we walk with people through bereavement. One of the things that I have constantly found for myself, even, is that you know, as a bereavement coordinator, you know, it sounds like a big position and an important position, which certainly it is. But at the same time, even I myself constantly face losses, those whom I have gotten close to. You yourselves, as volunteers, people that you may have gotten close to over time, certainly our nurses and other caregivers who have gotten closer to people, closer to our patients throughout time, they as well are facing loss. And one of the things that we really so often do as caregivers, especially in a position such as hospice, is we very quickly help people, and then we kind of move on to the next person. And sometimes we ourselves don't even have time to grieve the loss that we have felt, and to understand that loss in our own life. For every loss touches us in some way, especially more so the closer we were to that person. So the question is, what do we do for ourselves? How do we help ourselves in these instances? And there's, just as so many people grieve in different ways, there are no catch-all, one-size-fits answers to this question. So for each person, it is going to be a different journey, it's going to be a different walk, and it's going to look differently. Some people for sure are able to deal with grief better than others. And maybe we could say the more loss that you have felt, the harder in some areas it becomes to lose another, and maybe it becomes easier in other areas for other people as they lose more people. So we allow people to grieve in their own way, and we come alongside people and be where they are. But firstly, we also must take care of ourselves. We ourselves must have, in a sense, bereavement care from those that we have lost. And so sometimes that means taking time off. Sometimes that means getting away. Sometimes that means reflecting on the person's life. I spend many hours on the road, and I'll find myself at times driving down the road, and I'll think of a patient that we have lost. And for some reason, I may become sad. And that's grief that represents itself even after weeks and months, maybe even years after a person has passed from our life. Those griefs still remain with us. And so it's so very important for us to make sure that we get the care that we need, that we ourselves, as we, in a sense, minister to other people, that we ourselves are able to get that same ministry